So, yeah, like Herbert said, my name is Bill Flynn. I just relocated back to St. Paul about a month ago from the field. Everything that I've been able to do so far, I have utilized Salesforce to its fullest to help manage a large abrasives business. Like I said, prior to that, I was out in the Seattle zone. I lived in the Portland, Oregon area for 4.5 years. And for 3.5 of those years, I had a abrasives territory that when I left was at about $4.5 million. I can honestly say that I ran 80% of my business using Salesforce. What we're going to go over today is we call it a day in the life of a sales rep. So if you can, just kind of put in the back of your head that you're waking up in the morning and we're going out for a day of calls. No day's typical for a sales rep, but what a day would be like, this is what we're doing today. So we got a full schedule ahead of us, and that's kind of how we're going to structure this. So we're going to start the day off. So we wake up, grab a cup of coffee or tea or whatever it is that you prefer in the morning, and the first thing that I always did to start my day off was read the chatter feed. There's a lot of communication out there, so how do you stay on top of everything and not spend tons of time doing it? So this is an amazing practice to do this every single morning. You can refresh it, and every morning I would just start scrolling through, reading things that I felt were relevant to me. And half the time I wouldn't even necessarily click on the read more. Maybe I didn't need to know all this, but at least I caught enough of a tidbit to say, hey, there's a problem here, like what Michelle just posted. So I'd scroll through, and as you go through the post, you get to a point where you're like, I saw this yesterday, and you're done. And I'm emulating, this is exactly what the phone app looks like for Salesforce One, but it's the same exact thing like we just saw. It's the home page when you open the app, and it just provides the chatter feeds for the day. You can comment on them, you can like them, you can add links, you can do anything from both sides of it, but this is a very, very good practice to get into to start in your day, and that's what I would always do. So examples of relevant chatter posts are things like this. In the IMC, we have a monthly web stream that's very important to watch. It's part of our objectives as IMC reps. So here's where those get posted. So I found that from Mary Johnson saying, hey, our October web stream's up. This is where they get really relevant, though, and it's instances like this. Now, this was an extremely long feed that had about 14 different comments on it from Keith James. He's an ASD rep in the Chicago area, and he had a big win at Ecolab in a stainless steel application. But he put it out there. He let everyone know how he won, how he went about it, and then Keith even took a step further, and you can kind of see right here, he actually told everyone around the country that's part of the ASD group, he said, hey, Ecolab has manufacturing facilities all over the country. Here's a link to all their North American manufacturing sites. So how powerful is that instead of Keith having to search through and find all the locations of Ecolab and then contact each rep independently, he's able to put one simple post out there that everyone gets. And as you can see, you start seeing a lot of the comments that are coming from other counterparts around the country. Hey, Keith, I love that you put the additional locations. Thanks a lot. And this went on and on, but this is just another example of how you can quickly replicate a success or spread the word of a success that you've had out in the field. If I were to put this whole thing up, there's a lot of people that noticed this post that Keith put up from, upper management to tech service to his manager. So it's noticed, and it's one of those things that it ties into your end of the year stuff if you're really participating and being a team player. And then the last one that I put up here is from Doug Washer, who's one of our abrasive tech service engineers, and he put up a post in regards to stainless steel finishing that blasted out to the entire ASD team, and he has pictures and attachments and things like that. So I kind of wanted to sprinkle in an array of different ways that chatter posts can be really relevant. Again, like Andy said, this is an opt-in thing. If someone doesn't have a lot of stainless steel in their account or in their territory, they could browse over this and that'd be it. But for the person that does have a lot of stainless steel in their territory, they might have caught this and gone, holy smokes, this is outstanding to know. So we make our first call, drive down the road, and from 8 to 9 a.m. we have a distributor training on 2015 ASD campaigns. And what we're going to be doing is I've scheduled a meeting with Stellar Industrial, who's my premier distributor, big abrasive seller, and we're going to cover the 2015 ASD campaigns with them. But I want to back up a little bit because, like anything, there's prep work that goes into any meeting or sales call. And prior to the meeting, in order to have something to hand out to everyone so they had something in front of them that they could take away immediately from the meeting and hopefully go out and utilize to go sell, I went into Salesforce.com and I printed out all the collateral that our marketing team has provided to us, as well as putting together a content pack to blast out digitally. So everything like this was ready before the meeting. I found all this in Salesforce.com. So I'm going to show you real quick what I mean by this. So first I'm going to show you where campaigns are housed. Now, this is for industrial, abrasives. This could be for anything. Anything that's a focus for your division can be housed here. So you go into the Campaigns tab, select Go for all ASD campaigns, and I'm just going to pick one of them at random here, but we'll pick this Finesse It Refining Disc. So you click in here. It has all the info about the campaign, which is good. You know who launches them. That's not as important. But the important thing is that you can click on this supporting material link right here, and everything that has been published by the marketing team and the business for this campaign is loaded right here. So I went in. You can go in. I printed off the, you can see right here the flyers. There's sales sheets. There's MSDS guides. There's all kinds of collateral that's provided for every campaign that's launched where you can go in and print those things off. So you've got something to hand to your distributors at the meeting. But obviously digital is important now, right? I mean, everybody's getting iPads or a tablet of some sort. So how do you utilize that side of things? Well, Salesforce also has a program under libraries where you can create what are called content packs, where you can upload whatever literature you choose to upload and create a content pack that with one link you can send out in an email. They'll get the link, and they'll be able to open all the documents that you put into this pack in PDF form and be able to save them right to their tablets. So they have them digitally as well. So what I mean by that is I'm going to show you an example, one that I have already created. Under the personal library, I would go to, this is one we created for something we had in the past, but imagine it's for the training. And as you can see right here, all in PDF format, all the documents that were used in the meeting that we're having with Seller Industrial are right here. You select Deliver Content. You set up whatever criteria you want. You can be notified when they open them the first time. You can set the amount of time that it's available for them to be able to utilize the link. You hit Save and Next. And from there, all you have to do is copy this link right here and paste it in an email out to that distributor channel. Now, what's powerful about that? Well, you have one link, right? But you have multiple distributors. So you can create a generalized packet of information on your campaigns or whatever it is that you want and utilize that same link over and over and over again to send out to different distributor arms. To distributor 1, 2, and 3. You can send them all the same information but only have to do it one time. And that's pretty powerful because in the past all we would be able to do were, because the files would be so big, would be send tons of emails, and that gets pretty old after a while. So this is a very quick and efficient way to do that, and that content pack will be housed in your library as long as you want it to be.
Say, Bill, this is Andy. So a couple of things about how this relates to our initial go live with the global Salesforce rollout. What Bill showed with campaigns, that has been approved to be in Wave 1. So you'll be able to do all of that, immediately when we roll it out. What he's showing here with the content pack, that is a standard feature of Salesforce.com that we could turn on at any time. While it may not be turned on day one, may or may not, I don't know. It could easily be a fast follow thing that, a week or 2 weeks or a month after we go live, we could easily turn that on for everybody. Yeah, there's a lot of features like that are just turn on in Salesforce that are really beneficial.
Yeah, when we were meeting yesterday, I shared with you, I just found out about content packs about a month and a half ago.
And the other thing, Bill, is those distributors that you're sending that to don't have to have a Salesforce license to see them.
And that's the beauty of it, because right now, if we try to use OneDrive, they do. And it becomes a big hassle because as soon as they have to log into something, it's over with. So it's a simple click on the link. It brings you right to that little preview I was showing you when I was scrolling through the documents, and then they can even pick and choose from there which ones they want to save to their device. So it's a very powerful tool. I thought it was really important to show you.
Hi, Bill. It's Paul up in Canada.
Sure.
So I represent EEVG here as a capability lead for accounts.
Okay.
But I'm also a rep, and as you're demonstrating this, I'm overwhelmed, excited. I know that a lot of it won't be in wave one, but in your perspective, how much time is this saving you as a rep? Because I see so much value to this.
I couldn't really quantify it in hours, but it's an immense amount of time.
Yeah,
I mean,
your productivity must go up.
Extremely.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just turning the volume up here a little bit so I can hear you better. Yeah, it goes up significantly. I better turn it down. So, yeah, I couldn't really quantify it in hours or anything, but it goes up. It is a big productivity enhancer.
Wonderful. Thanks.
You bet. All right, so we had our meeting. It went great. We got all the collateral out to everyone. So now we're going to get into a part of Salesforce.com, specifically the Salesforce One app, where it's become extremely useful, and it's to record activities. Now, when I say activities, we have been tasked. Someone had asked, and I kind of explained that we have these key performance indicators around Salesforce, and one of them is recording your activities at both distribution, keeping accounts, which we'll get into in a little bit, and priority opportunities, which we'll get into in a second as well. So after this meeting, I go back out to the car, get in the car, get on my phone, which I'm going to do right here, and I'm going to record this distributor training as an activity tied to this distributor. And we're going to continue to talk about this throughout, but why is this important? Well, in a zone or in any business, you have peers or counterparts. In the industrial side of things, there's abrasive reps, there's tape and adhesive reps, there's safety reps, there's converter reps, there's specialty reps. Recording these activities allows all your counterparts to see, oh, hey, Bill was just in there last week. Maybe I need to give him a break before I go and hit him with the tape and adhesive campaign. It just allows visibility and tracking, if you will, because in the end, our managers can look back and say, hey, we did 10 trainings with you this year. Why are your numbers flat? You know, that it allows for accountability. It allows for tracking. It allows for just historical data. So you can always show what you did at one of your distributors. So what you would do to do this would be to click on these little bars at the top. You go to accounts. Sorry. And it's already in here. You could search for it by typing it into the search function. You could use any of these, but since we were going through this roughly yesterday, it's right down here in your most recent, so I'd select Stellar Industrial because that's the distributor that we just did the presentation at. And then down here, you're presented with a set of icons, and this is for any account or opportunity that you open. I would tap on that one. And then what I would select would be Key Channel Event. So you see a ton of different options here, log a call, log key channel call. Anything that says channel refers to your distribution. So it's going to tie to your distribution. The difference between a call and a task as opposed to an event is that an event actually happened. It's something that you did, and there was a date and time centered around it. So the vast majority of the things that you're going to do are events. So I'm going to click on Key Channel Event. It would bring up this screen, and you're going to start filling in the information. Now, the one thing, and you're going to see this recurring as we go through our ride-along today, filling in the subject line the right way is absolutely critical. Because if you don't, when you go to look under that opportunity or that customer, it is just going to say Key Channel Event. If you have 25 activities in a year and you don't fill in a good subject, all 25 of them are going to say Key Channel Event. And then you got to sift through all 25 to find out what you did.
And so
it's really important. Yeah.
Sorry, this is Jody Hagan.
Yeah.
So whatever you put in the subject, does that help it search in the global Salesforce search as well, or not necessarily?
Andy, would you be able to answer that?
Yeah.
That I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah. As we've seen in the global search demos, anything that's related to a record, like this is going to be related to to the account. You know, it would find it if you search by keyword like ASD campaign.
Great. Okay, cool. Thanks.
This is mobile. I'm just emulating exactly what the app looks like on my desktop.
So could you do voice entry of any of these fields besides just typing it on your?
I've got to be honest. I have not messed with that, but Herbert and Andy yesterday did say yes.
Yeah, on any phone nowadays, either Android or Apple, you've got a microphone button when you're typing something. So you just click the microphone button. It's part of your phone, and it lets you speak. And it's very, very good at translating what you said into the texture.
In Chinese as well.
But there's always a but, right? The reason I never use it and why I would guess that 95% of field reps don't use it is because most of the time when you get in your vehicle, and we're doing most of this from our vehicle after a call, and your Uconnect in your Chrysler product or your Sync in your Ford gets on, the dictation doesn't work because it has to go through the speakers and there's some disconnect there where it doesn't work. So I never used it because you're always doing this from your car basically. So it was never a function that I could actually utilize. So is it available? Absolutely. Should it be utilized more? Yes. It's just not really as easy to do it. So, yep, when your phone connects to the car, there's a disconnect on it being able to record voice. Same goes for using Siri or anything else. So just a disclaimer. So anyway, and I'm going to show you how you find this stuff later on. We're going to do something coming up where you'll see where it's important to have the subjects. But we'll go through. You select the type. Obviously, this was a training. You would select the day and time just by clicking on the calendar here. For name, so you do a training with the distributor and there's 20 people there. How do you're not going to put all 20 names in. At this particular distributor, we have a certified specialist, which is someone that's just responsible for selling 3M products. So I would utilize him as my contact person, and his name is Russ. It populates automatically. You select him, and then down below is where you can add comments. So now this is where you can get more detailed than just what you put in the subject line. I'm not going to type in here, but you could put anything along the lines of what went on in the day, any objections that came up, any orders they placed, just any bullet point notes that you think are important. You can have as many or as little as you choose, but whatever you put in there is going to be held there eternally for future reference. So it is important to put stuff in there. Again, it's just up to you at how detailed you want to get. So I'm not going to save any of this because I don't want to be, this is all stuff from my old territory and I don't want to be tainting the person that has it now. So I'm going to hit cancel. But normally you would just hit submit and it would save it. That's it. And then the next time you logged in, even on your PC, all that information would be synced. All right. So back to the ride along here. So get in the car, and we head to our first call of the day at a customer. So from 9:30 to 10:30, we have a call at Plummer Forest Products. And Plummer Forest Products is what I consider a priority opportunity. And what I mean by a priority opportunity, and you're going to hear this throughout the day, priority opportunity is an opportunity that I am focused on closing or killing, taking it to win, or we can't go any further, we're not going to win this status in the next quarter. So we're going to get into the business plan later, but when I say priority opportunity, this is how I'm prioritizing the opportunities that I know are available to me and how I'm focusing on moving those to closure. Or, again, maybe we're not going to be able to close it. We need to step away, and we'll document it accordingly. But we're going to Plummer Forest Products, and the purpose of this call is to check to see how some belts that we sampled to them are performing. And the good news is that we actually found out that they're performing really well and that the customer wants to proceed with the guaranteed trial order. So we go back out to the parking lot, and I do a small victory dance when no one's watching, obviously. And then we get in our car. So we're going to now record this as a key activity event. So, wait a second.
Glad to see you had the Saints there.
Yeah. I'm a Vikings fan, so it's tough to watch that, but they score more touchdowns than us. So we're going to go out to the car, and now we're going to record this, and I mistyped here, so my apologies. I put key activity event. This would be a priority opportunity event. right? Because this is an opportunity that we're really focused on closing this quarter. So we're going to go back to the app, and we are going to look under opportunities. And again, you could either type in the name of the account that you're looking for. You could use these different search criteria. But if it's one that you're focusing on, quite frankly, it's probably going to be in your recents, just like this is right here. So I select the opportunity. It opens up. I get my icons. And I select key activity event. Now, while this does not say priority opportunity event, this is what it's classified as. And I'm going to show you in a second what I mean by that. So activity focus, when you get in...
Are those IMC terms or Salesforce terms?
I know they're IMC terms. Andy, are those
they're
generalized Salesforce terms?
Those are mostly IMC terms, things like priority opportunity and such.
I didn't know if they were put
but
down.
things like key activity event, an event or an activity event, that's a Salesforce thing. But the fact that the IMC calls them a key activity event, that's an IMC thing. So it's kind of a combination of both.
And on this screen, this is Andy Moldenauer. The activity focus is a custom thing for you guys.
Okay.
But things like subject, type, start, end, those are all standard activities.
Perfect. Thanks. I've just always seen them this way, so I didn't really know how to answer that. So, but, finding, winning, keeping. So this call is obviously for winning because we got a guaranteed trial order. We're moving the sales process along. So I'm going to mark it as winning. For name, this is where you would put a contact name at the end user level. So this particular gentleman at the account's name is Scott Hickok. So I'd select him. And then subject, again, where subject is important. So in here I would put something along the lines of follow-up on belts, received, GTO. Quick reference point. When I go to look in the future, it's easy to find. Now, this is where type of call gets important. I would select keeping/priority activity. So this is something that's either based on a keeping account or a priority opportunity. And it just generalizes. And the reason that this has been done is because when reports are pulled to make sure everyone is, following in line with these key performance indicators, this allows them to pull reports if you select the correct type. Again, you would put start and end times of the meeting, and then you would add your comments. And this is where you could put anything that you chose to further than what you put in the subject line. So I'm going to hit cancel again so I don't create a false activity for somebody. All right, so we had our call. It went good. We recorded our activities. We're back in the car and back on the road. But as soon as we get in the car, actually, a voicemail pops up, and our 10:30 to 11:30 call's canceled. So what do? How do you fill that time? Do you go sit at a Starbucks? Do you make phone calls? It depends. It's up to you. But the best way to utilize your time is to fill it in with a call. You know the area that you're in, and you know what accounts are in that area. So how do you utilize Salesforce One to figure out what person do I contact that account that I want to go call on? So what I do right away is pull up my phone. I get on my Salesforce One app, and I look up a contact person at an account in the area that I know called Hardwood Industries. And it's one of my keeping accounts, but I can't remember the gentleman that I deal with's phone number off the top of my head. And I don't have it in my phone book in my phone. So how do you find it? So we pull up the Salesforce One app. We go to Accounts. Clicking is not working. And again, you could search for it here, but it's already populated. So I select Hardwood Industries, because that's the account that I want to go see. I know they're in the area, and I need to just spend some time with them. So you then scroll to Related, Contacts, and Juan Corpus is the gentleman there that I need to go visit with. So I'm going to call him and set up the appointment. But this is the coolest feature, and this is, Andy, I believe you said this is relatively new. But I'd select Juan. It brings up his phone number, his cell, and I hit this little phone button right here to call him. Now it brings up the different phone numbers I have. So what I want you to kind of notice when I'm doing this is I'm going to select his mobile phone and another screen's going to pop up. Imagine in the split second that this next screen pops up, we had our phone conversation and set up our meeting. So we did that. We agreed to the meeting. I said I'm going to be over there in 20 minutes, and I hang the phone up. As soon as I hang the phone up, the phone goes right back to the Salesforce One app, where I now have the opportunity to log this call. So this is a little bit more of a rare instance where, maybe you're not going to log a call to say, I called them to set up an appointment. That's not really relevant data that we're going to be putting into Salesforce. But imagine if you made a follow-up phone call to someone that's a little further away geographically that you can't go see all the time, and you covered some really important information in that phone call. This would populate right away, and you can go through, and again, just like we did with the last couple of activities we recorded, you can record that activity as a call. You can capture all the data and information that you talked about in that phone conversation without even having to make any more clicks other than just finding his phone number. So it's pretty powerful. Instead of having to go in, find the account again, create a new activity, it does it right for you. So pretty neat feature that I wanted to make sure you saw. So I set up the appointment with them, went in and performed some basic keeping activities, like checking their inventory, making sure that they were good on the belts that they had, and just building my relationship, seeing various people within the account, and just building my brand within the account. And the call ends up going till about noon, so I get back in the car, and before I head to lunch, I obviously record the activity again that we made the call. So again, this may seem a little repetitious from a call standpoint, what we're doing right now, but on a daily basis when you're doing these things, it's just part of your post-call follow-up.
Say, Bill, can you talk a little bit about why you would do it after every call versus waiting until the end of the week?
Yeah, and I was going to get to that towards the end, but this is a perfect time. So imagine at the end of the day, right? You're out from 7:30 in the morning till 5. I like to spend a little time with my family or do other things outside of work. So imagine if every single day you make 5, 6 calls, have some phone calls, you take in a lot of information in a day, right? You do a lot of stuff in a day. Would you want to sit down at the end of every single day and have to think back on everything that you talked about, everything that you covered with someone, and then have to go back in and record it? No, I mean, it could take an hour, right? So all of a sudden, you're stretching your work day out an hour and a half, depending on how efficient you are with this stuff. But as you've seen here, you can do these short little tasks after a call in your car, and it takes 2 minutes. So when we talked about being more efficient at the beginning of this conference call, that's where this really comes into play. So I'm part of a group called the Zone Technology Champions, and basically what that is, it's one person per zone that is responsible for pushing out and teaching and implementing new technologies from Salesforce to iPads, anything that comes out to their respective zones. And obviously, like Andy just said, there's a lot of zones that have some very tenured reps that are maybe used to recording things in a spiral-bound notebook. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there was a rep, ZTC had told us on a call, he had a 25-year rep in his area, and after we started really embracing the activities recording, that rep, the tenured rep, told the ZTC, he goes, this is the first time in 20 years I've had my Saturdays back. Because he would spend all Saturday morning up until lunch going through and recording everything he did that week in Salesforce. Now, he'd record it in Salesforce, but he did it through the computer. And he'd wait, so he'd have to reference his calendar. He'd have to look through a spiral-bound notebook. So he told him, he said, it's the first time in that long that I've had my Saturday mornings back. So how do you get him to do it? You show the value of what kind of time they can gain by not doing it the old way and how easy and efficient it is to do it this way. Anyway, so we would then go back in and we would record our activity at that account by, again, we would go to accounts, select the account, there we go, and logging a key activity event. And I've showed you how we go through that process, but we would, again, just go back in and do it again. All right, so we have lunch. It was wonderful. And we go to our next call from 1 to 2. We have a call at Roseburg Forest Products. But my call starts at 1, but I need to reference a little bit of information from the last call that I made because I don't want to go in there and be forgetful on what we discussed. So Before the call, I go to Salesforce One, and I want to confirm a few details that we discussed on our last call, as well as look up a quote that we provided to them, because that's what we're at this call to talk about, is how did our pricing look? And I don't want to be skewed in what I thought the pricing was, so I want to check that. So, pull up the Salesforce One app. I'll go back. Uh-oh. There we go. And I look up in the opportunity section, and again, it's populated. You could search. It's right here for me, though. Roseburg Forest Products in Missoula, Montana. I don't know if anybody's paid attention to the addresses in any of these places, but I've done a lot of driving today so far. And then we would scroll over to Related. And under Related is where you keep your activity history, contacts, notes, and attachments. So I want to find out what we talked about on our last call. So I'm going to select Activity History. And I see right here my last call, because they're organized by date. On September 23rd is the last time I was in here. Select it. And this is just a brief one. I didn't put a ton of information there because I didn't need to. This is actually a live one that I did on this date. There just wasn't a whole lot to put in. But I can now remember and say, hey, Joe, Dane, and I met with David to discuss issues with his new sanding line. And again, this could be as detailed as you wanted, depending on what your last call entailed. So that's good. So now I remember what we talked about last time, and I can use that to start the conversation off. How's your sanding line now? Do you have your issues worked out, et cetera? But the important thing is we're here to talk about a quote, right? Just like any sales rep, get an order. So I'm going to go to my notes and attachments, because when we were provided with a quote, I saved it to Salesforce under attachments. Now,
hey Bill, let me just interrupt real quick,
sure,
because people may be confused about when you say quotes. IMC is not doing quotes the way that Canada would think about quotes. What you're doing is you're just attaching a PDF that came from an email, right?
It was it was an emailed PDF from my distributor to me and the customer that had the pricing in it.
So don't think quotes in SAP CRM. Think just an email you got from a distributor with a PDF. That's the quote.
So now you see a lot of other things in here that have titles to them. This one particular one doesn't, but this is the quote number. So you click on it and boom, it's right there for you. This is the actual PDF purchase order. I don't know if anybody can see that, but it was a good one. There's a pat on my back. But you have all that information right there at your fingertips just to see, hey, this is what the pricing is. I can look and go, if there's any complaints on, he says, hey, all the belts look good except for this 50 grit one, I know exactly what the price was. We can talk through that, right? But it's all there in preparation for the call. So, I'm going to go back. And again, we make the call, we discuss everything that we needed to discuss, and once the call is over, I report the activity in Salesforce One. I think we all get the picture. I'm not going to go back in and show you, but again, just reiterating every time, every call is over. It's a 2-minute drill to record that activity, and it's done. So, we'll quickly answer a question, and not from any of you, but what I mean is, as I get in the car to leave from my call at Roseburg Forest Products, and I'm driving down the road, I get a call from another distributor of mine, and he's asking about a belt size at Flakeboard, which is another account that we're working on, and we need to provide him a quote. And he needs to reconfirm what belt size they have, because the last thing you want to do is quote the wrong belt size and not be accurate in your pricing. So he needs to know that, and as soon as I get to a stopping point, safety first, always when we're driving, I look up the info by pulling up the opportunity in Salesforce One under Details. And so what I mean by that is going back, I look up, type in the account. This happens to be this particular one right here. And when we start talking about details, when we create opportunities, there's certain things that you want to put in so it's not just a title. Now, obviously right here, I have it in the title, but a lot of people won't necessarily put this much detail in the title of their opportunity. You might see a lot of reps put in Flakeboard Albany 490 FZ belts, and that's it. So that doesn't tell you a whole lot. You know the belt it is, and you know the grade, but what size is it? I mean, that's the most important factor of the whole thing. So as you scroll down in your opportunity, and we're going to create an opportunity in a little bit, and I'll show you, but right here is where I included, this is an actual opportunity that I created myself when I was in the field. You have your notes. So it tells you this is stuff that I put in on what the current sequence is, what the size, the competitive product, the grade, how they purchase, who the sales rep is from the competitor, what shifts they run, the name of the shift people. Simple things like that with one click are available for quick reference. I mean, how powerful is that instead of going, well, I better get my spiral bound out. Oh, that one's at home because I filled it up last week. I mean, this is all stuff that's right there as soon as you need it. Then I can scroll down and see what we spec'd in, what size it is, different details on splices. These are things that are very specific to ASD, but I'm just trying to show you the detail you can put in on a quick entry that's there forever to be able to reference. And I will be perfectly honest, I use these all the time. Because we're all smart people, but it is impossible to remember the minutia of every single account that you're calling on and every customer you're dealing with. So it's extremely valuable to take the extra second to type this information in. And again, I'll show you how fast you can do it when we create an opportunity here in a little bit. So I find all this information, I let him know what it is, and we're moving on. He's getting the quote, and he's working for me now.
If you have that information in another document, can you do a link to that an attachment and open it up on Salesforce One?
Yes, you would just attach it like we just did with the quote. You would just add it to the attachments and be able to search it. But as you can see, that would add a couple extra layers. So if you just put it in, you have it right there. But yeah, you absolutely can add attachments like that. Yep. Okay. So we give them the information. Now we're going to go make a cold call from 2:45 to 3:45. So last week when I was in this particular area that I'm in right now, I noticed an account and I wanted to make a stop at it. So I make the stop and call went actually really well. But now we have to enter some info in Salesforce. But this account's brand new, so it's not in Salesforce yet. So you can't actually go into Salesforce 1 and automatically start entering activities and all that kind of stuff because the account's not created yet. So we have to create the account. And we have to add the contact info of the person that we met with so it's there, and then we can actually start entering our activities. So me personally, I like to create accounts and enter contact information from my PC. I think it's simpler. That's the way that I like to do it. I know others do it from their phone, but again, you're riding along with me today, and this is how I did things. So we're going to get into creating an account, adding a contact, creating an opportunity. First, I'm going to kind of jump over to this next slide and that was our last call of the day because that was just our last call of the day. But we've got some planning to do for next week because we've got some gaps in the schedule. So I need to fill those gaps, and we're going to go to a place where we can get on someone's Wi-Fi and with our PC and start doing some of that account planning and call planning for the following week. But we're also going to create that account that we just made a call on. So I'm going to come out. We get to our Wi-Fi spot, and we get on Salesforce.com. So to create the account, you just would go to Accounts, go New End User Account, and you would start entering all the information. And as you can see here, this is why I like doing it on my computer as opposed to doing it on the phone. There's a lot of information that you can enter, and while basically only the account name is required, what good does that really do anybody just having an account name? Because you would be amazed at how many Apollo sheet metals are across the country. You know, it doesn't do a lot of good unless you start putting addresses, websites, regions, zones. You really start tying that information in that's important to the account. So you would fill all this out. You could put a description of what they do. And you would hit save. Is there any questions on that? I don't want to create a faux account in here, but that's what you would do. You'd hit save. And then once that account is created, I'm just going to select this one. Say we just created this account. You'd go in, you'd hover contacts, you put new contact in, end user contact, and now we're going to enter the contact information of the person that we just met at this cold call. So say in 3 weeks we're in the area again and we can't remember his name or his number, but we want to go see him again, just like we did earlier in the day, you can pull it up in Salesforce One. So we'd enter all this person's information, first name, last name, phone number, email, his role. There's a lot of intricate details of this contact thing, to be honest, in my opinion, but the main ones are name, mobile or office number, and email address, right? The most important ways that you want to contact someone.
Hey, Bill, this is Bonnie Craven. I was just noticing with creating the new accounts or contacts, do you ever do a search to see if they might exist in the system already?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something that you would do by just going to the search function here and using the star. I call it a star. I don't know what else you want to call it. Asterisk, and typing in the account name. Let's just do, for example. So yeah, you could absolutely do this and see that there are 25 plus General Electrics. So this is where it gets very important, like we just discussed, to be entering the city and the state and all the information that you can when you create that account. Because otherwise it's just going to say General Electric and it's going to not be, as easy to identify which one is yours. But on this instance, I just wanted to show if the account wasn't there, how you kind of take that next step. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I just wanted to double check because that's one of the things that we're looking at is encouraging people to do the search so that we don't run into a bunch of duplicate information. So
absolutely. And I can tell you, I would use the search function a lot especially when I'd be working from the PC.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so we've created the account. We've entered the contact information. Now we got to create the opportunity that we just generated at that account. So I'm going to go to opportunities, and we're going to select this account. Again, just assume that this was the place we just made our cold call on. So what you would do is once it loads, you would hover opportunities, new opportunity. Again, it's a new end user opportunity. And this is where you would enter the information about the opportunity that you just generated. Again, very doable on your Salesforce One app, but there are some fields that can be left blank that you have to go back in and enter. So it's kind of double work almost. So I just like to, if I generate a brand new opportunity that I don't already have in the system, I like doing it from my PC. So you create the opportunity. This is where you put the name and get specific. We'll just say, you could put more detail. You select product family, who the channel partner is it a direct sale, you're not sure. You could actually enter the channel partner here, and you could hit this icon. It would bring up all the most recent ones that you've searched. So again, it eliminates having to use the search function or type something in wrong that doesn't populate. You can actually select the distributor rep that you made the call with. This is the most recent one that I probably used, so there's only one in there. But say you've used 5 or 6 different reps recently, it would populate that distributor rep. You could select them. You start getting into the competitive landscape. It populates as you start typing any competitors that are entered for your product field. So like a big one for us is Norton. That populates if I started typing, say, DSM. They all populate, which is really cool because you don't have to spend a lot of time searching because I'm not sure how it was entered on the back end. How do I find it? You just start typing and it populates for you, which is kind of nice. You enter the competitive product. We get into what stage it's in, and we're going to get into this a little more in a second when we look at the business plan, but you'd identify that. When do you expect it to close? Annual sales volume. Back to the campaigns. Is it tied to any campaigns? So this is where you do that and attach a campaign to it. Again, just go through. Here's where the description where I'd put any of those notes that we just referenced when we had to look up a belt size when we got the phone call. Again, anything that you'd want to enter, images that you'd want to enter. Say it's an opportunity and you took a couple of pictures while you're at the customer, which is not uncommon at all. You could attach those right here so they're there to look at. So all these things you can do in one shot. But again, I hope this gives you a good idea of why I prefer doing this from the computer, from the PC side of it, than having to try to do all this in the phone app. I mean, you can see there's a lot of stuff you can enter. If it's a big opportunity, and you're going to have a lot of notes and images and all those kinds of things. That's why I prefer doing it this way. So we create that. We'd hit save and add product. I'm not going to do this because it will actually create an opportunity, but you would then just tie the product to it, and the gigantic bag of products within the industrial business group are all preloaded, and you would just search for them using the asterisks and the first couple of words or numbers that are associated with the product that you're going to tie to this opportunity. Okay. So we did that. Now it's time to start planning for next week. So this is kind of what we're going to do to wrap the day up and get ready for next week. We're going to utilize the Salesforce.com business plan to do that. And I'll just go from here. But basically, as we talked about earlier, when we started talking about priority opportunities and keeping accounts, the Salesforce.com business plan is the place where you're able to house all that. And it's one place where you can look, and it helps you prioritize what you're focusing on for that quarter, as well as what accounts you're focused on maintaining, right? Accounts that you can't afford to lose or keeping accounts. If you lost a keeping account, it would dramatically impact your business. So the business plan is a place that allows you to house all that information. To house all that information, and then again, use it to plan your time. So we're going to go to business plans, and I'm going to pick on Justin Rowland here only because he took over my old abrasives territory before I took the specialty role on, so I know it pretty well. But we're not going to focus on this top part as much because this is a whole other conference call that we could have if we wanted to start dissecting this. But what I want to focus on is this lower half right here. When we start talking about priority opportunities, again, opportunities that we are focusing on either moving to closure or to kill off because we can't win within the next quarter. And those opportunities are categorized in three ways. As qualified, which means they're at a 10% status. So we've identified the opportunity. Maybe we've had an initial meeting with the customer, but that's about as far as it's gone. We haven't even got to the testing phase yet. So that's at a lower percentage of chance to close. So we call those qualified. The next group is what we call in pipeline. That's a 50% opportunity where, we've had the discussions, we've gotten samples in, we've either set up the test or we've tested, and we're trying to move it to closure. Those are considered in pipeline. And then the last one is what we call our high probability. These are opportunities that you're at a 90% spot that you're going to win it, or based on what their decision is, it's going to be a killed opportunity because we don't have whatever the customer may be needing. So planning my time out next week, I look at my calendar and I know where I'm going to be, right, based on my geography. So as you can see, you can start looking through these various opportunities, and now, he's got a lot of them in here, but you can start looking at these accounts, and I can tell you just from my experience that any account that you're going to deem as a priority opportunity, you know where it is. So you can, I'm telling you that, hey, I know what area I'm going to be in. You might say, well, how do you know where these accounts are at? You just know. We had this conversation, before the day started. You know where they're at. So I could start looking through the names of these accounts, looking at my calendar and go, I'm going to be in Vancouver, Washington. Who can I go see to fill a couple gaps and try to move these sales along? I know DeWill's Cabinets is in Vancouver, Washington. I know that AJ Custom Cabinets is in Vancouver, Washington. Boom. I'm going to try to set those appointments up to fill those gaps in my schedule. So that's fine and good, but while you're trying to move opportunities through the sales cycle, you also have to focus on keeping your accounts that are your big dollar volume accounts that if you lost them, you would be in a bad place. So you can scroll down to your keeping accounts section. All the names of the accounts are right here, and this one is fortunate enough to tell you what city and state they're in. So I can start looking again, Vancouver, Washington. Here's 2 keeping accounts that I need to see because I know I haven't visited them in a while, and you actually establish with your keeping accounts a call frequency. So how often do I feel like I need to see these accounts to maintain that relationship and the business there? And as Justin set up here, he feels like he needs to see Columbia Machine quarterly. He feels like he needs to see Christensen Shipyards monthly. So he looks back or goes off memory and goes, I know I haven't been into Christensen in the last 3 weeks. Perfect opportunity to go in there. I'm going to set that appointment up. So just want you to see how you can use this as a tool. You've prioritized what you want to focus on, and you've done that. You've chose those priority opportunities based on what's going to help you get to quota. Now, as you can see right here, he's got a couple in his high probability, $5,000 annually, $100 annually. The dollar amount doesn't matter. It's what are you focused on closing, right? Because if you're continually making closures, even if they're smaller amounts, it's all still contributing to get you to that quota amount that you need to hit. So that's the important thing I want to note is it doesn't have to be $150,000 or $50,000 annual opportunity. It's just what are you prioritizing that you know that you have moving through the sales cycle that you want to close this quarter. So I've figured out the gaps in my schedule. I've planned my week out, and we've got things dialed in for next week, and I'm confident that I'm ready to hit the ground running next Monday morning. So I want you to kind of take a step 4 years down the road, and you leave your territory. What happens? If there's no information to go off of, what is that new person that comes in? And I'm going to stop here and say this is probably where Salesforce is the most impactful. And what I'm going to show you is a real-life example of when I left my territory and Justin came into it. Now, while he had me in the area for a year to reference things, what if I was gone? Or what if I said, hey, Justin, I can't be helping you every day with this kind of stuff? How does he know what happened? So this is where all the things that we've done all day, all these activities that we've repeatedly entered, in our opportunities and our keeping accounts, this is where it really comes full circle. And I think that this is where the real value of Salesforce.com and implementing it and using it comes into play. So what I'm going to show you here is an actual account that I've been working on since 2011. And I'm going to show you the activity history. And let's just say I never talked to Justin. Say I left the company and Justin comes into this territory. And how does he know what has happened? He sees all these big opportunities, but how does he know what's gone on? He can take some time. He can look under Coors Tech in Hillsboro, Oregon. And if you see right here, go to activity history, go to list. Now you're going to see a ton that have been entered by him, but I want to do is, you can see this. This is just what he's entered this year. He's trying to say, what happened when Bill was in here? What was that guy doing the whole time he was out here? You can start looking and seeing everything that I entered. This is any activities that I entered using a program that we had in place called LinkPoint 360, which once we implement Outlook, it'll be more directly tied to Salesforce. Any emails I ever sent, I tied them right to this opportunity when I sent the email. So you can start looking back. 2012, mid-2012, early 2012. I mean, you literally have a call-by-call, email-by-email history of what happened in an account that you can reference in the snap of a finger. I mean, how powerful is that? Go ahead.
So you're linking emails to that. So how do you do that? You do that in notes because you're sending emails in notes, right? And you're linking it to the Salesforce.
Yeah, so we had kind of I'll call it an Andy step in and use correct terminology, but I'll call it an in-between software called LinkPoint 360. And it was paired with your Lotus Notes, and when you would send the email, you would just select CRM send in file, and it would send the email, but it would tie it to that account. So and Andy, you can step in if you want to.
Yeah, so we were going to explore getting that software in here, but because we're going to be switching over from Lotus Notes to Outlook in January, we're just going to wait. And because with Outlook, it's a lot easier than it is with Lotus Notes. So this kind of thing will be available once we get into Outlook.
LinkPoint was not, it was, if you learned how to use it, you could use it, but it was not easy. And it sounds like Outlook is really going to alleviate that.
Yeah, because I had a question earlier on about all the activities. A lot of the activity updates are going to probably come from emails from your customers, right? It's not always like you go to a call and you record what happened in that call. A lot of activities are actually follow-up emails. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming that with this new tool, you can link the emails from your customer to the activities in Salesforce as well?
Yes. When an email comes in, you'll have a button, Add to Salesforce.
Yeah.
And if it finds their email address, it'll put it in as a history, and that's it.
And I haven't even got to see the Outlook side of it yet. I've just heard it's so much simpler. Because the link point, while I made it work, it wasn't as easy as it, So that's exciting stuff. But I think, Andy, the story you were referencing is, what I talked about yesterday is looking at something like this. Now, what if a 25-year vet said, I'm not using that stupid program, right, because maybe the attitude you're going to encounter. And that's okay, but try doing this with spiral-bound notebooks. What, are you going to turn over a container load of them for 25 years of history that someone's going to sift through? Absolutely not. But how easy is this? And as you saw throughout our day today on our ride-along, if you simply take a couple minutes after each call, utilize these tools, it's not that hard. It's not that time-consuming. And you can see the impact that it has. Because, again, how could you ever remember all this stuff? Not to mention, do you think it maybe helps you back things up a little bit when someone says, I never sent you, I never told you it was this price, I never did this, or I told you this, and you have it right here to say, no, you didn't, or yes, you did.
So how's your sales managers helps you to maybe win more cases through the Salesforce by utilizing the tool? I mean, so how sales managers going to use this tool to help you?
How do sales managers use it?
Managers.
So there's a lot of different ways. But, obviously they're looking at least what I was experiencing was they're looking at things like, what activities is this person performing? If you're entering things where maybe some business is at risk, if you're entering big opportunities, that you're just starting to work on, and your sales manager's looking in and he says, holy smokes, you've got a $100,000 annual opportunity. I know we haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. That's okay, but I noticed it. What can I do to help? Because think of a field manager that may have 13, 14, 15 people reporting into them. It's hard to talk to all those people on a daily or maybe even sometimes a weekly basis. I mean, you could spend your whole being on the phone. So they can use these tools. There's dashboards, and again, this gets into the business plan. It's a whole other session we could do. But they can utilize these tools to say, holy smokes, I've got 5 new opportunities in my zone that cumulatively are worth $500,000. How can I help my reps? What resources do I need to bring in to help them close these things and move them along and my zone along?
Or how can they use the tool to communicate with you or even give you feedback or give you comments?
So, there's obviously the chatter function. Yep. You can get a lot of chatter things from your manager, again, depending on how much they use it, right? Because it's still up to them. But again, there's a lot of dashboards, and I can't speak on all of them, but I know there's a lot of dashboards created for the area business managers where they can see a lot of these things, and they have reports that they're able to pull to see what activities a rep's been, conducting, how many distributor trainings has he done, how many key account, keeping account activities has he performed, priority opportunity activities he performed, and I guess, I'll put my manager hat on going forward. Let's just be honest, if someone's underperforming consistently and they're not recording activities, you see they're not making calls, I mean, there's a correlation there, right? So
Bill, you mentioned that whole topic could be a web stream of itself. Yeah. What if we got Todd Rosewell out here to do the same kind of thing you just did for this team? He's the sales manager out in Seattle.
Yeah, that's who I reported to.
And I know he would love to do the same type of thing. Would you guys be interested in hearing from a sales manager how he uses the tool?
Because it's night and day the way that they're going to use it versus a ride along that we just did here.
That would be awesome, Andy, if you could get that.
Okay.
It's going to help us with our training and adoption when we take this back to our businesses.
Andy,
I'll call Todd right at the end of the call.
Yeah, we can meet and talk to Todd. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Just tell him he owes me. So I was just going to say this is question time. That was kind of the end of our ride along. Good day. Had some wins, right? So recorded all our activities. So what questions do you have in anything tied to Salesforce.com at all?
Okay, so when you first started, because we see this full potential of how Salesforce.com could be, right? But when you first started, it was really simple, and there's not a lot of data in it. What is the motive for you to actually start entering? Because it sounds like a lot of typing, recording, filing, and that effort. What is the motive for you to actually start working?
Well, I will say that when we started this, we brought a lot of account information, everything over from Siebel, which is our previous CRM system. So they brought a lot of that over. So it's not like we had to go back and re-enter every single account that we had ever called on or reported anything for. A lot of that information was brought over. Opportunities were brought over. It was a while ago, but so we didn't have to start literally from scratch. But what was my motivation is that I thought it was pretty easy to see that this is the direction it's going. I mean, the system we had was archaic, and this is what we were rolling out. And I looked at it enough and felt that I could actually run my business off of it, and I didn't feel that I could run a business off of the previous system. So the motivation was I knew where it was going. I felt like this is going to kind of be the direction things are going, and I truly believe that it would help me manage my business and hit quota. And that's in all honesty. I don't know if that answers your question, but you're going to, I guess, let me step back and I have a theory. In the field we get paid a salary for a reason, right? So if you're asked to use a CRM program, you can either not adopt it and be way behind like a lot of people are right now, or you can adopt it and be a leader, which is what it was. So I'm here right now talking to you guys about it. So not to sound bad, but that's you got to jump on board.
Bill, when you're training new reps currently, are you training them live or one-on-one or remotely, or what's the best, most efficient way to train new people?
So when we bring brand new employees in, our DSR program, we are doing a lot of live training in our training room with them. So like when we break out and we get 5 ASD reps, we are doing a lot of business plan reviewing, opportunity reviewing. We're really spending time making sure that they understand the plan, how to prioritize accounts, how they can use that when they're getting out into a brand new territory. We're making sure that they understand how to not only report activities but search previous history and everything. So that's what we're doing on a new employee level. But
and how many hours is that new session? What's your expectation? Is it after 2 hours you expect that they can walk away and do that, or is it 4 hours, or is it a full day, or what's your expectation?
I got to be honest with you. I've only been in this training role for a month now, so I don't have an actual an hourly expectation. But what I've seen is we'll do an hour and 15, hour and a half sessions, and there's a lot gained in those sessions. I don't know. Do they have absolute full understanding? No. But because it takes a little while, and it takes them using the plan on their own to really understand it. But an hour and a half session, a lot can be gained if someone walks through it the right way.
So just to explain the DSR program that he's talking about a little bit for the new reps coming in, Industrial has a program called DSR, or Designated Sales Rep, where a new sales rep coming into 3M has, 6 months to a year, Bill, where they're actually being trained. They come into St. Paul for a couple weeks here, a couple weeks there to go through training. It's not just Salesforce training, it's product training and selling skills training. And then they go out and shadow reps and they come back in St. Paul. So it's a 6-month or a year process.
Yeah, it's ongoing throughout the course of a year. They get 4 2-week sessions back in St. Paul with us, and then they spend time out in the field. So what I can tell you is if we get these new employees in and they're not placed in the territory yet, it's a little more difficult to understand the business plan. It's when they actually get placed in a sales territory and they actually get data pushed over to them from whoever had it before that they can start going, now it makes sense. Because I'm seeing opportunities, I'm seeing my pipeline, I'm seeing anything that this other rep had, it's in their hands now and they can really start understanding it. I'll step over to the existing side. That's where that zone technology champion comes into play. And every zone technology champion does things differently, but some will have bi-weekly or monthly conference calls with their zone. Some will have monthly face-to-face get-togethers with their zone. It just really depends, but that's where it's up to the zone technology champion. They appoint them based on who they think the best leader for that zone would be, and it's up to them to handle it how they want to.
Just a little quick background on what a zone is in case you're not familiar.
Yeah.
In industrial or IMC, the U.S. is broken up into 24 zones. So the zone that Bill called on is called the Seattle zone, covers Seattle, Oregon, Montana, wherever else Bill
Yeah, the Panhandle of Idaho.
And so it's a big geography that he covers. That's one zone. There's 10 or 12 reps in that zone, and there's one manager that manages that zone. So the zone technology champion concept is one rep in each zone. So Bill was the rep in Seattle in that zone, but there's a rep like him, 23 other reps like him across the country who are kind of the technology champion in the zone, and they're responsible for disseminating knowledge about technology, not just Salesforce, but other tools, to the sales reps in that zone. So it's really good best practice, I think, that we should be looking at.
And are they incented because of that additional responsibility they have, or no?
I think we got an Apple TV when we started the program, and that was exciting. But really, it's just, at the end of the year when you're filling out leadership activities on your EPR form, that's where it's a big deal. I mean, it's not just like, oh, you're going to be the ZTC. It is looked upon seriously. Anytime there's a big zone meeting, I mean, you get a 2-hour session that you're leading. I mean, it's a big leadership opportunity. So it is looked at seriously, and upper management does understand who those people are and what they're doing.
So Bill, you are one of ZTC, right?
Well, I'm not anymore because I'm out of the field, but as of a month ago, I was, yes.
Okay, so how do you influence other sales rep in your zone, and how do you help them to conquer the resistance?
So I'll have to put that on the manager first. And if your ABM or your manager is driving it, it helps the ZTC push it out. If you don't have, and I think most are really good about it, but if it's not coming from the top down, me talking to a peer and saying, you got to use this, doesn't carry a whole lot of weight. I can show them all day how awesome it is, everything. I could show them everything we just went over, and they still might say, I'm not into it. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So I had Todd Rosewell, who Andy was just talking about, and it was extremely important to him. It was very serious to him, and he made sure everybody was aware of it. I mean, to the point that activity reports would come out, and if he sent an email out, people would be going, whoa, I better get on the horse here. I'm a little behind the curve. So if you have top-down push on that, it helps you as a ZTC, because then people are going, I don't necessarily want to learn this, but I have to. Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the one thing that, we haven't gotten to that yet in our discovery and our planning. We're just getting the tools out there, but everything that we're putting out, it will not be of any value to anyone unless it's all the way up the chain, and that's sort of an expectation that will come from Jim Fall on down.
Yeah.
If the managers aren't managing with it, the reps won't use it, or if the regionals aren't managing, the locals it'll just die, and it does every time. There's no secret sauce.
Yep.
If I gave this tool to you, you ask the question, why would I use this? It's going to be hard. If you just give it to reps, some will, some won't. If left up to them, most of them won't. Well, if my manager says, this is how I'm now communicating with you, and they actually do it, everyone uses it. It's amazing, right?
Yep.
That if this is my only way to do something, all of a sudden I do it that way.
Yep. And my manager was using it because it came from his manager.
And if exactly. So let's go up the line.
I mean, it's called a trickle down effect.
That's right.
It's a chain effect, but when it happens that way, holy smokes, it's impactful.
And I think that's why Jim and team are spending a lot of time at the leadership level to share them where it's going. They will be trained. They will be given tools to use in this. That does trickle down to drive that. Because if we don't, it will fail. I've seen it a million times. It's not rocket. This is not rocket science at all. It's very simple blocking and tackling. If we allow them not to, that's where we have problems, and that's the culture change. That's the biggest part. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a reason they spend a lot of money on this. This isn't just a hobby.
Nope.
I mean, millions and millions and millions of dollars and all the time in the 2-year plan. It's not going to be an option. So we just got to make it, or if it's not an option, let's make it really cool. And everybody will use it, and it'll be great.
And it is way cooler than what we had before.
Yeah, so let's talk about when we had Siebel in industrial. We had managers, Bruce Fishback, I don't know if you remember him, Bill, was a huge advocate. He was a top, regional leader. So he would have this top-down approach and try to get reps to use it, get his managers to use it, and so on. But the problem there was the tool didn't have enough in it for the reps. So you need both. You need that top-down approach, and you also need the tool to be valuable to the reps when they do have to use it because their manager's saying you have to use it. So we have a very, very powerful combination now with management, Jim Paul on down pushing this, and the reps that are forced to use it, they'll start seeing the value that Bill has shown. Very powerful.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we're thinking about deployment, about change management. One thing that we've been thinking about is whether or not we should be giving our sales reps or our managers the full view of the full potential of Salesforce when we're not getting it in wave one, because it's a big gap between what we're getting and what we are supposed to be getting in the future with all the enhancements. So in your experience, and I know you started without prior experience with other CRMs, but think of yourself as someone that has been in 3M for a long time with a lot of that history and CRM deployments. What would you recommend to communicate to the sales reps in the beginning? Do you want to tell them about the full potential at the very beginning, or just tell them that this is what you get at this moment of time?
Baby steps, because it's like anything. Too much too soon is usually not a good combination. Roll it out, basic opportunity entry, basic business plan. Start in waves, and then each add-on, each wave is easier to understand and easier to adapt to. That would be my take on it. If you rolled out everything I just showed you, I personally feel it would be far too overwhelming to grasp.
But I think what she might be asking is, would you show them this and say, here's what's coming, here's what you're going to get to start?
I would show the managers, but I would not show the field reps. Because what's going to happen, at least in my opinion, is you're going to have half that go, oh my God, this thing is going to be way too much to manage. And you're going to have half that go, I want it all now. And you're going to create, in my opinion, you're going to create a firestorm on yourself of going, when do I get this? When do I get this? Why don't we have it? This program's no good because I don't have this yet. And then when you roll it out, they don't use it anyway. But that would be my take on it. Show the managers, show upper management what the full capability is, because they're the ones that, again, just like we talked, we're going to have to push it out. So what do we have now? Where's it going? And let them communicate some of those things to their team. But I don't think showing the full capability right away would necessarily be a good strategy. That's my personal opinion, just from what I've seen. And, again, it kind of ties into the baby step side of it. So that's my take on it. Yeah.
So, Bill, it's Paul. You've been part of this project, right? You said since it first came on board?
Mm-hmm.
So in speaking with the baby steps, can you give us an example of how it was deployed for you guys? So when in wave one, what we call wave one, what was it that you could do? Because now we see what you can do after 3 years. But, was it at, I guess you're not really aware of what's in scope right now, but is it in line? Andy, I guess that's more for you as well. Is it in line with what's in scope right now?
I think everything you saw today, with the exception of the content packs, I'm trying to remember anything that we saw today that's not in scope for wave one. Andy Molnar, do you remember anything?
Well, the business, the in-depth business planning.
Yeah, but what the parts that Bill showed though are in scope for wave one, right? The priority opportunities.
Yep, it's just the depth that it is, all the fields and all that, but accounts and contacts and opportunities, putting in your activities, using it all on the phone. That's all what we're going to be doing. Just in our wave one, we have a lot less fields, a lot less. We got to get the data in. There's more focused on that. So this is a more mature usage of core capabilities.
Okay. Yeah, and when I remember the rollout, I remember it was everything got brought over. There was a big push to make sure you marked all these opportunities right, and they got brought over into Salesforce. And the big first wave for us was just kind of cleaning everything up that maybe came over a little fuzzy from Siebel, and then it was really just opportunity entry and the basic parts of the business plan. That was the main focus at the beginning. I felt like there was no activity reporting or anything like that. It was there, but it wasn't a push. The main things were just starting to get your accounts and your opportunities accurate and in line and clean, scrubbed out with the, garbage in, garbage out type thing, and just really getting it set up. I mean, that was kind of what I remember first wave being.
So mobile wasn't there
Nope.
when your first wave. So how did mobile get rolled out?
How did mobile? It came in waves, and there was various different apps that we used. Like the one that comes to mind is Logger, and there was a bunch of different apps that rolled out for mobile and pre-Salesforce 1. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Mobile rolled out in waves. When Salesforce 1 rolled out, it was brought to the ZTCs first, and then we took it to our zones. I mean, obviously it was available to everybody, but we took that message right away out to the zones, to our respective zones, to show them what it was, to show them how it worked, what it could do, and how you can utilize it, just like we did on our ride-along today. Does that answer the question? Okay. Anybody else have anything at all? All right. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thanks, Phil.
I
Really
appreciate
your time.
Thank you. Anything I can do to help in the future, please let me know, and have a safe trip back.